Hello there and welcome to another one of my videos. Today I'm talking about a question, and the question is, if we were given paradise, would we even enjoy it? Would we destroy it just so that something interesting would happen, or just to reintroduce some excitement in our life? I got this topic from this book, Hard Rain Falling by Don Carpenter. And so the idea is kind of that in a paradise where we have no enemies, there might be a new enemy that we were not aware of called boredom. And so this is actually not at all the topic of the book. This is just an idea that kind of comes across in one of the passages where a character is reflecting on his life in prison. He has kind of ironically noted how a flattened and totally equal environment still wouldn't satisfy us, because that's what prison is. Everyone is given the same, and no one is supposed to have anything different. And he sees how this, even though the desires are supposed to be, the desires that would cause conflict are taken away, how this would still not be desirable. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I'm going to read part of the passage, a quote, so that you kind of get the idea. And it goes like this. And here it is, right here in the tank, a perfect socialist utopia, in which those desires which cause conflict are satisfied by being lopped off. Just think what it would be like if some evening one of us, just one of us, got something extra for supper. Wouldn't we all be excited? And so the guy is kind of fantasizing about someone else getting preferential treatment, because this would reintroduce some hierarchy and some strive and desire, some excitement in their life. For sure, there are a lot of better sources to kind of think about this topic. For sure, there's philosophers, there's essays and whatnot, but I got this topic from this book. The book is actually more about pool halls, dark pool halls, prison and crime. It's a kind of gritty and almost existential novel, and I highly recommend it. It's really good. But the idea is that even without, or the idea of the subject that we're talking about now, is that even without violence and or deprivation, us humans, we would still maybe reintroduce desires and hierarchies just because it's exciting. And so essentially the idea is that utopias are boring, and we hate boredom. In utopia, nothing happens, or nothing of great importance happens. There is no conflict and there is no striving. And us humans, you could say, we kind of live off of stories and narratives. We need our own life to kind of be a story. And stories, they need tension. And without tension, our lives also become boring, because our lives essentially are our stories. And the idea is that we might intentionally, or maybe subconsciously, disrupt our own peace just in order to reintroduce excitement. And there are some studies about, some psychological studies about how when there is more boredom, we are actually more prone to violence. Boredom kind of breeds aggression. And this would kind of go hand in hand with the fact that if we were given a utopia where there is no strive and there is no meaningful conflict, how this would eventually generate or increase our level of aggression, generating on its own new conflicts and new kind of strive. Another part that was not really in the quote, but that was in this passage, is how scarcity is also meaning. Now you might say, this is not new at all. We are all familiar with supply and demand. So of course, if something is scarce, its value or its meaning could increase. But the idea is slightly different. The guy is fantasizing about someone getting a pie, which no one else gets. Actually a banana cream pie, oddly. But anyways, he's fantasizing about how this pie would be enough to generate strife, conflict, ambition, envy, and maybe even murder. All for just this pie. And that's not because of the inherent value of the pie. And it's not necessarily because of the low supply in the supply and demand. But the scarcity in itself creates meaning or creates value, because the pie doesn't just represent the pie. The pie, or much of the value of the pie, actually lies in the fact that it is the way out of this sameness that they're all suffering. The pie becomes the one thing that no one else has. And so the one different thing that no one else has becomes incredibly valuable, because this is the way out of the sameness. This breaks the sameness. And so that's why it becomes valuable. Not because it's a pie, because it could be anything else. And maybe this is a bit of a stretch, but there could be a bit of a parallel with our lives on social media. Everyone is constantly trying to outdo each other, trying to get out of the sameness. Now, ironically, we tend to do this while still following trends, so that's kind of a bit stupid and funny to think about how we're all trying to be original while following trends. So that's a bit a funny concept. Anyways, the idea is that the pie is enough to generate envy, class, ambition, murder, and all of these things. And I thought this quote this idea was pretty interesting, because generally speaking, I mean, the way we think about equality and things like that, we generally think that conflict is caused by inequality. But this quote flips that. How conflict, we look for conflict also in extreme equality. In a prison where everyone is supposed to be equal, no one is supposed to have something that someone else doesn't have. It should be the perfect socialist utopia, but it isn't. It is not a utopia, at least. And there are other examples that are not just inside of prisons, but for example, childhood playgrounds, or office gossip, or online drama. These are all contexts where there should be total equality. And so you might think reasons for conflicts are non-existent. There is no reason for a conflict on a childhood playground. There is total equality. Well, us humans, we kind of have this fascination with status games. And we like to kind of create these micro hierarchies, even when there's no reason for it, like in the examples that I just gave. And so we create these kind of status games out of thin air, and we create gossip, and we create cliques when they are not at all needed. So even when our physical needs are met, humans will still generate a type of conflict. It might not be physical, but we'll still generate conflict even when we have no reason to. So in the absence of war and hunger and all of these things, we still find ways to get upset, to get mad, and all these things. Instead of worrying about a war or fighting a war, instead we create opinion wars in times of peace. We create identity politics and this group think, and we have online beefs. These are situations that are completely unnecessary. We are in situations of total equality. We still find ways to generate a conflict. And so in the absence of war, we still find drama. And so the idea is that utopia might not really end conflict, but it will just simply change the arena from actual wars to things like opinion wars. Another idea is that we are addicted to striving, and I think that this might be true. A lot of meaning doesn't come from struggle, but it definitely doesn't come from comfort either. That's for sure. And things can be more meaningful after hardships. And so, although we shouldn't promote struggle, that would be really stupid. We still need to be a bit grounded and be realistic. No one wants struggle, and we should never strive for struggle. We should strive for prosperity and all these things. But we cannot avoid that. We get some meaning from overcoming hardships. And so a perfect world might become a kind of a prison, could become a kind of prison, unless we can still have the chase, unless we can still plot and risk things, because we need strive for things, and we need some excitement. And this is, I think, also true because if we look around us, just like as a species, if we were a species that would just be happy with peace, we would not have invented Excel or Bluetooth or any of these things out of the beautiful nature, you know? We have always been striving. I mean, we're currently sending rockets into space. We are not the type of species that just wants comfort. So why should we think that if we were given a paradise, we would keep it that way? So yeah, that was kind of the idea. And I think the most interesting part was that we generally think that conflict is caused by inequality. But even when there is total equality, we generate conflict, even when it's not needed, almost as if equality also causes conflict. Less important conflict maybe, but conflict nonetheless. And so I thought this was this was interesting and kind of gave some insight into us humans. So if you have any ideas about this, you can always let me know. Write something in the comments. I promise I will read it. And you can let me know if you want peace or you want problems. And yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you for your attention. Bye.